Hello and welcome to the Cretaceous Campcast. I am Cretaceous Dave, and this is a podcast all about Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous and Jurassic World Chaos Theory. Um, it's good to be back. I know I had my I'm back episode about a week ago, but I just want to say it's good to be back. I haven't felt this good about things in a while, and I've got the ball rolling on some interviews. There's one we're working out the final details about when and where. I'm really excited for these interviews I've got coming up. These are some really great people, and I think you're really going to like them. One of them is a little outside the box from, what most people would probably think when they think of somebody interviewing somebody. And I'm really excited to get this one done and have you guys take a listen because I think you're really going to enjoy it. Not much else news on the chaos theory front or anything like that. There is a rumor I've seen floating around on social media. I wasn't sure if I want to even bring it up, but I will, just because I kind of feel like it's my duty that if it does end up being correct and I didn't tell you guys, be like, hey, why didn't you say anything? But the last few days I've seen a rumor floating around that August 15th is when the trailer for season 4 is going to drop. I'm not really believing it because that seems really, really early based on past seasons and even Camp Cretaceous. I'm not sure where the rumor came from. I don't know the original person that started it. I just seen it kind of shared on different social media platforms, and I don't really recognize any of the names, so I'm not going to say like, yeah, this is believable, but figured it was my duty to share that with you, that there is a rumor going around that August 15th is the date for the first Chaos Theory season 4 trailer, which it would probably be a teaser, but like I said, seems really early to me. Universal's still in full rebirth mode. The movie is still exceeding expectations at the box office, and it comes out on digital digital purchase platforms in just a few days. So I think they're still going to be in rebirth mode at least through the end of August, but we'll see. I don't know. So keep that date, August 15th, in the back of your mind, just in case we do happen to get some nuggets of information about Chaos Theory Season 4. So let's get on with the episode. If any of you out there are podcasters, YouTubers, streamers, other forms of content creators, I'm sure you've run into the issue of, what do I want to talk about next? And I know I've had an entire year to think up a list of topics to talk about, but I didn't really have a plan coming back into this, and I was trying to think of what to do, and then completely unrelated, started looking through old photos on my phone trying to find something. There was something specific I was looking for. I knew it was from a couple years ago, but I didn't know exactly when or whatever, so it's just painful scrolling through pictures. And you can narrow it down a little bit, like it's 2022, it might be this month. It makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to sit and scroll. Anyway, where am I going with this? Well, I found some pictures from 2022 that kind of sparked an idea. So if anyone follows me on social media at Cretaceous_Dave, you've seen some pictures. I remember I did also post some pictures on at least the Camcast Twitter. I'm not sure about the other platforms. Sorry, my memory isn't always the best. Of something I found and something I have the idea of. And what it was I came across the 3D files of the B.R.A.D. and the B.R.A.D.s I that I commissioned someone to model for me. So it started off as a joke back after season 4 of Camp Cretaceous. And then I realized they're never going to make toys of these things. Maybe I should make some. So I found an artist. I really liked his portfolio, and I commissioned him, and he made me these 3D models in Blender of great-looking B.R.A.D. and B.R.A.D.s models. And early on, I scaled them up. He had them a little small when you exported them as a printable file. So I scaled them up to about 3 3/4 inch scale size, and I printed them out. And I had a resin printer at the time. Well, I still do. I just don't use it. It hasn't been used in years, so I don't even know what it would take to get that thing working again. But I had black ABS-like resin. For those unfamiliar, ABS is a type of plastic very similar to what toys are made out of. So I used that. I printed it out. Yeah, I did the normal post-processing you do with a resin print. You wash it in rubbing alcohol. You cure it under UV light and all that stuff. and I had a B.R.A.D.s figure. I don't know where it is. Sorry, for those of you on YouTube, I would physically be holding it up right now, but I don't know where it is. I packed up that room in my old office and changed it into a room for my son. So all that stuff is just packed away somewhere. Anyway, so I had printed out B.R.A.D.s, and then I wanted to take it to the next step, and I scaled the head as large as I could for the printer bed that I had at the time. And I printed it hollow on the inside, drilled out little holes, and I put some red LEDs in there. I wired it up to a button. If I hit the button, its eyes lit up and it said unauthorized life form detected using the actual clip from the show. So I don't know. I thought it was really cool. Of course, I got really mixed reactions online. Some people just thought it was cool that I did it. Other people are just disgusted by the idea of someone doing something that has anything to do with the B.R.A.D.s. So I think you can kind of see where I'm going with this episode. So I found the models, I found the pictures of the prints, I saw the video of the demo of the B.R.A.D. head, and that got me thinking, I don't hate the B.R.A.D.s like everybody else does. So I decided I'm going to do an episode in defense of the B.R.A.D.s. Now, I don't really know if this is so much defending as be going over what I consider the positives or, having a response to some of the negativity surrounding the B.R.A.D.s and the B.R.A.D.Xs. And of course, they have their flaws. I don't find them to be perfect, but I figured I'd spend a few minutes just kind of chatting, a little bit about those. I was going to call them animals. They're not animals. They're robots. So let's get started. One of the first, actually, I'll kind of lump these two together, that the two biggest issues I see people complaining about is it's not Jurassic, and it's too sci-fi, which for the first part, what is something being Jurassic? Like it's a universe in which dinosaurs were brought back to life. So right away, I don't know, what does it mean? What does it mean to be Jurassic? Does it mean it has to be related to dinosaurs or things prehistoric? If that's the case, what's everyone's issue with the locusts? They're prehistoric locusts, but people are saying they're not Jurassic. Like that's, if you mean dinosaurs, just say they're not dinosaurs and you want dinosaurs. That's fine. But it kind of bothers me when people say something is not Jurassic. Like, what does that even mean? I don't know. But I do have a response to it's too sci-fi. And like I said, it is a franchise built on impossible science. Nothing gets more sci-fi than the de-extinction of prehistoric animals that died out 66 million years ago. 65, whatever. We'll not debate that science calendar. But yeah, anywhere from 60 plus to 100 plus million years ago, these animals died out, and this franchise brought them back to life. So I don't want to hear anything about sci-fi, especially considering these things are something we have in our world today. Like we have something similar to the B.R.A.D.s in, I forget what it's called, but the robot dog that Boston Dynamics has. And Boston Dynamics and other companies have humanoid robots very similar to the B.R.A.D.X, that they can perform a lot of those functions. They can travel into places people can't travel. They're more rugged and durable. They could do things. Do they shoot lasers? No, they don't have lasers. That's something I'll get on a little bit later. But the overall idea of these things exists in our world today. It's achievable. It's attainable. Heck, I could 3D print a mini B.R.A.D. if I wanted to that functions. I can build one with off-the-shelf parts that I can order on, Amazon or electronics parts suppliers. And I could probably build a B.R.A.D., not a B.R.A.D.X, a B.R.A.D. for a few $100s and make it work. So, it's nothing impossible. And there's other too sci-fi stuff in Jurassic World itself. We've got gyrospheres, which I'm pretty sure the laws of physics don't allow something like a gyrosphere to actually exist and work. We've got the fancy holograms. We've got all sorts of technology in Jurassic World that no one really bats an eye with when they think about too sci-fi. But it's things that don't or probably can't exist in our world today. But people have issues with robots. Like it's a robot. It's something we have. I don't know. I never bought it's too sci-fi or it's not Jurassic enough. arguments. It seems like someone just digging and trying to find a reason to hate these things with no real reason at all. So they just pull something out like it's not Jurassic. So okay, it's not a dinosaur. Just say you want dinosaurs and don't want anything other than dinosaurs, and it's completely fine if that's it. If that's what you watch Jurassic for, cool. That's what a lot of people watch Jurassic for. But don't go labeling something that personally I don't think it is. Now, if you fully buy into it, then okay, that's great. We all have different opinions, but I don't see it. I don't see it being not Jurassic enough, again, whatever that means, or too sci-fi. The other thing, just kind of thinking about these creations, is you're on this island in the middle of nowhere that Manticore wants to keep as secret as possible. So you don't want to staff it with tens or hundreds of people. So from a security standpoint, the B.R.A.D.s make sense. They are much cheaper. You only need one person there to control and maintain them. Yeah, it can kind of get to be a pain for that one person, in this case Cash, to have to do all the maintenance and other stuff. In a realistic scenario, there are probably more than just him and Dr. Turner on the island. I'm sure there are other people. There are probably maintenance people to take care of these B.R.A.D.s and stuff like that, not just Cash. But it makes sense, especially from a security perspective, that you can have these things walking the island, scanning the island, taking inventory of the dinosaurs, making sure there are no intruders. Like I said, this is a super, super secret place. You don't want people just showing up there. So, I don't know. It makes sense to me. Other reasons that I'm okay with the B.R.A.D.s that some people might say like that's not a valid excuse or it's not a valid reason, is it most likely saves on animation costs. I think I heard Scott Kramer mention in a season 2 of Chaos Theory interview about the DLN wearing masks, and I think he said it had to do with the animation costs of animating humans. So if all of these characters have the same face, it saves on budget and time and whatnot. And it makes sense from that perspective to have the B.R.A.D.s on the island instead of animating 10, 20, however many security guards and other people working on this island. You get this model asset of this robot one time and you can just put it all over the place. It makes sense from that perspective. To piggyback along with that, I don't have 100% confirmation on this, but I'm pretty sure seasons 4 and 5 were done animated, recorded during COVID. As far as I know, the first 3 seasons were all done together and they were finished before the COVID lockdowns. I could be wrong. If somebody knows for a fact and want to correct me, please do. I don't like giving out bad information, but it's my understanding that 4 and 5 were done during the lockdowns. So I think the cast have actually said they were like recording in their closets for their lines and stuff like that. And actually, yeah, Paul McHale-Williams mentioned it in one of the cameos he did for me, that they had to like clap in between takes so that people knew, when their take was over and when they were done talking and stuff like that. So, I'm sure animation was different. Budgets were probably different. There was probably some uncertainty around things. Who knows? Maybe these seasons weren't even supposed to be like that. But with the delay of Dominion and everything going on with COVID, maybe they had to pivot. The story had to change. They didn't quite have the budget. I'm not sure. But something to keep in mind is these seasons were most likely done, during the COVID lockdowns. So we don't know what all changed. So, I know people like to use that time as an excuse for a lot of things, but it is an excuse. It's a legitimate excuse that if none of that happened, maybe season 4 would be different. Maybe it would be Sorna. I was kind of hoping it wasn't. I just wanted that story left behind. I wanted this story to move forward, but I know I'm going to anger some people and upset some people with that. So I'm not even going to touch on that. I'll just anger people defending B.R.A.D.s instead. But we don't know where maybe it could have gone, or maybe this was the story all along and they just kind of had to tweak some things with the recording and the animation a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure if we'll ever know. If I ever get the opportunity, maybe I'll ask about that, because seasons 4 and 5 of Camp Cretaceous really intrigue me, because a lot of people just really, really don't like them. But the people that do like them, they still don't like things about them, but they will find nice things to say about them. So with those seasons being as divisive as they are, I would like to ask some questions about them if people are willing to talk about them. So we'll see what kind of interviews I may have in the future. And if there's anybody that, wants to talk about those, wants to turn back time, go back 3 years ago and talk about something a bit on the controversial side, because apparently that's what I'm here for, to talk about controversy. And another thing I like about them is it's good to see another company focus on something, not just dinosaurs. Even with Biosyn, they're another bioengineering genetics company. They're just focusing on dinosaurs. They're creating their own dinosaurs. They are poaching the dinosaurs from Sorna. They are building a sanctuary for all of these dinosaurs to live and roam and do whatever they're going to do experiment-wise, and whatever their, evil plans and stuff are for these dinosaurs. So it's nice that there's a company that is utilizing their money and their knowledge and their expertise in advancing technology in other ways and doing other things with it. So, I'm sure if Masrani saw something like that, he would be like, yeah, I think we could take that and tweak it in X way and use it for the park, because it could be something new added to the park. You can have the B.R.A.D.s as sort of like attendants or people at the park to kind of tell you, like, oh, you want to go to the Mosasaur Lagoon? You walk down this path, make the first left, and it's about 1,200 meters. Things like that. I could see them repurposing them or using similar things if they knew this was out there, if Manticore wasn't this evil corporation, but instead a partner or sharing their technology with the world sort of thing. So it's nice to see a different company using tech in different ways in this franchise, because like I said, it is the most out there sci-fi franchise there is, built on impossible science. So why not have some cooler things? And, I'm kind of leaning that these robots are futuristic, but they're not. They're here. We have things. We have little robots in big cities that can deliver your food for you. We have self-driving cars. We have driverless taxis. Robots are here. So, it's not that far out there that things like this could have been used at the park for things. I've actually seen some of the companies that create dinosaur costumes and animatronics for parties, for the theme parks, for entertainers. What they've been doing is putting dinosaur skins on top of Boston Dynamics dogs, and they made like baby triceratops from them. One of the companies is Only Dinosaurs. I know their company name because that's who I bought my raptor costume and my Bumpy puppet from years ago. Had to sell them, those that don't know that story. Sad to see them go, but they have a better home now. But that company, again, their name is Only Dinosaurs. They're based out of China. They have started making baby triceratops built on a Boston Dynamics dog. Now, the legs bend the opposite way, so it looks a little bit funny, but they do have little walking dinosaurs built around these robots. So it's not out of the possibility to think InGen or Masrani would have tried something similar as entertainment at the park. I don't know. I don't think it's out there, and it's, like I said, it's good a different company was trying something different technology-wise. Now to some things that, I didn't really care for. And really the biggest one was just the lasers. That seemed to be the most out there with them. The whole scanning thing, that's cool, and I I understand and I get that visually for the audience, you needed to see the scanning beams come out while they were scanning to make sure like the kids were still in lockdown or looking for unauthorized life forms or anything like that. Realistically, there wouldn't be visible lasers probably coming out of the robots. But that technology, I think it's really cool. It's something I could definitely see utilized. But the, laser blasts to kill dinosaurs or to kill the kids, that sort of thing, I'm not totally on board with that. I don't think that is, all that realistic. Although we do have, I've seen people put flamethrowers in robots and stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe it is. But it did give something that I find to be one of the funniest pieces of lore in the franchise, and that is in season 5, the B.R.A.D.s I firing at the Nothosaurus and, causing that chain reaction of events on the island, which causes the earthquake, which then, according to the franchise style guide, is what causes Mount Saibo to wake up and then eventually erupt later down the line in Fallen Kingdom. For those unfamiliar, because I don't have one, I have never seen one, but there is a franchise style guide that is given to creators of canon content to make sure they are following rules so they understand the timeline and stuff like that. So a couple of years ago, Paolo, he goes by Wedge Antilles on Twitter, he had tweeted that, yes, in the style guide, it mentions that those events in season 5 of Camp Cretaceous are what caused Mount Saibo to later erupt a couple years later. And I thought that was the most hilarious thing, because when that season came out, I posted a picture. I said, what do you think about this? And a picture of a B.R.A.D.s I being the cause of this, and it's the doxing of the Brachiosaurus from Fallen Kingdom. And I said it joking, but it turns out it is in that style guide. Now, Chris from Jurassic Outpost, countered and said the guide does kind of go into, there are two different canonical timelines, kind of one where Camp Cretaceous exists and one where it doesn't exist. I don't have all the details, and to me that makes sense if people want to make things and not factor the animated series into what they're doing. I don't think it necessarily retcons anything out of the show, but they can kind of just pretend those events didn't happen, is my understanding. Like I said, I don't know. I don't have a style guide. I've never seen a style guide. I don't even know what a single page of the style guide looks like. I just know what people have mentioned online and have told me about this style guide. So, no, it is not the definitive canon that a B.R.A.D. is the cause of Mount Saibo erupting and all of the events of Fallen Kingdom and everything after to happen. But there is a canonical timeline where that is the case, and I just think it's hilarious. I know that's something else a lot of people don't like. Like, oh, this stupid part of this stupid show is what caused all these things, and dinosaurs are everywhere, and Maisie hitting a button, something else people don't like. And it just kind of snowballs into things people don't like about Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, and then they just bring it on back, starting with Chaos Series Camp Cretaceous, sorry, not Chaos Theory, Camp Cretaceous Season 4, and everything just kind of snowballing after that. But I don't know. Like I said, I find it entertaining. I like the idea that something in this other island offshore causes this earthquake and it wakes up the volcano, because, the question a lot of people ask is, why build the park on there if you knew this volcano could erupt? And they didn't know it could erupt. And I like that they gave us an explanation as to what did cause it to kind of wake up and become active again. And you may not like the reason behind it, but I think it's cool that they did give us a reason. And I applaud Colin Trevorrow for all of the hard work he put into the World Trilogy and his contributions to the animated shows to help fill in the gaps in his story. And not to get on a Rebirth tangent, but the concept in Rebirth that all of the dinosaurs have died out, I think is a real disrespect to Colin Trevorrow. And not just him, but everyone that worked on the World Trilogy, but also everyone working on these animated shows, because they've worked so hard telling us these stories, and they're all kind of just waved away with one little line in a movie set, 5 years after the events of Dominion. And I think it's sad, and it's going to kind of give me a different perspective in watching Chaos Theory Season 4 when it comes out, knowing that everything these kids are doing, everything they're fighting for, at least from the dinosaur side, not from the human side. From the dinosaur side is for nothing eventually, that, they're all going to go away. They're either going to be, died off or migrated or relocated somewhere else. And I guess we'll see what happens with that, if they ever acknowledge, dinosaurs like Bumpy and Smoothie and, anything else, what their fate might be. Or even fan favorites like Rexy and Blue. A lot of people just assume Rexy's probably dead from old age by the time Rebirth rolls around, and that's fine. Don't think it's cool if they just write her off screen like that. Give us a short, give us something. It was great that at the end of Dominion, she was able to be with family. She found family after being alone forever, but I don't know. It's, yeah, I found the overall what Rebirth was going for in that synopsis from early on a little bit disrespectful to the team behind the World Trilogy and the animated shows. But not here to talk about Rebirth. Sorry, small bit of a tangent. But I think that about wraps it up for this episode. I don't want to spend too much time defending the B.R.A.D.s. I don't want to get people mad at me. I don't want to start losing listeners and followers because I'm talking about something like this. But even if they are not your thing, if you didn't like them, if you think they're stupid, you think whatever, I still hope you enjoyed what I had to say, or at least listened to my defense. It wasn't like a big defense. I wouldn't win in a court case if I was a lawyer, but I just want to kind of to weigh in, give my 2 cents on the B.R.A.D.s and the B.R.A.D.x's, and just talk a little bit about them while they were fresh in my head after I found some pictures. And on the topic of those 3D models and the B.R.A.D.s, hopefully by this weekend, I'm going to post the models for those for free online. So if anyone wants to try printing them for themselves, please do so. You may need to tweak them a little bit. You'll need to scale them up to make them printable. If anyone wants to take the Blender models and rig them to use them in 3D animation or games, go ahead. My one condition is share it with me. I want to see what everybody's doing with these. Please don't sell them. If you want to sell them, please run it by me first. I'm not going to ask for a cut of the money, but I at least want to give you permission to do it. I don't want people taking these models and then making boatloads of money off them or anything. So just please be kind, please be respectful. And yeah, so hopefully by this weekend, I'll have the links to those up, and anyone that wants to grab the B.R.A.D. models is going to be able to grab them and, do as you please. But like I said, if you're going to do anything to make money off them, please run it by me first. That about wraps things up. Figuring out the final details of a couple of interviews, so look for those really soon. Hopefully next week I'll get to have a chat about season 3 with somebody, so look forward to doing that too. And until then, everyone stay safe, stay Jurassic, and have a great one. So long.